When I was teaching geography to my sixth graders for the 2 years in the classroom, I got a lot of my lessons from the Peace Corps website. Apparently, a lot of their people that that are spread all over the world, they put together these lessons and they make them available for teachers on the website. And seeing as I had to, my very first year, create all of my lessons on my own, as if the first year of teaching isn't hard enough, the schools here in Florida seem, or at least my school, gave all of us new teachers some of the most challenging circumstances, some of the most challenging kids to teach. I had the lowest kids. They were all pretty much on a third grade level comprehension. And they were supposedly, sixth graders, already 3 years behind in their ability to comprehend and read. Which, right there, I don't care if I was the only class where this was the case, and I wasn't. That should be appalling and completely unacceptable, and I don't even know how it's possible that happens as much as it's happening. Regardless, there was no way I was going to be using the textbook. So I had to create all of my own lessons. And I utilized the Peace Corps website whenever I could. I'd say I probably used, probably not too many, maybe 4 or 5 lessons throughout the year. But there was one that I taught. It was about material wealth compared to spiritual wealth. And it was this lesson provided by a Peace Corps volunteer, and he and his wife had gone to Papua New Guinea. And they were there, and they were from Chicago. And they were, in this rural community. And he had pictures. He said he had brought some pictures, and he was showing them to the native people of this particular area of Papua New Guinea. I don't remember specifically where. And in one of the pictures, there was a homeless person. There was a person that, had a sign and was, again, sort of what you would imagine, not, raggedy clothes, dirty appearing, and a homeless person in the middle of downtown. So in the picture, there were quite visibly many people walking by this homeless person. And these native people, the concept of homelessness was completely foreign to them. They had no concept of somebody not having a home, and more starkly, the massive level of apathy, the level of not caring being exhibited by all these passerbyers. And so they wanted to understand. And of course, a lot of times in our world, we take so many things for granted. And certainly, you can't even I try to explain homelessness and the whole concept and how, try to explain that to somebody who's never, ever even known its existence. And so they do their best, and they go to bed. And they had cleared an area of their little community, and they had their own little hut. And the next morning, there's a knock at the door, and the elder of the group had come to this Peace Corps volunteer's hut, and he said, "The elder, we have all met, and we want you to bring that person to us. We will take care of him. Bring that person to us. We have agreed we will clear this area. This will be his area. This will be his food that he can grow for himself. If nobody in your country is able to care for him, send him to us, bring him to us, and we will take care of him." And the volunteer was trying to share in this lesson just how that affected him. Like the complete innocence of these people. And they couldn't understand why that wasn't possible. They're like, "I don't get it. You flew here. Why can't they fly him here? What you and your wife got here? Why can't we get him here? We'll take care of him." And the childlike innocence and the desire and the just so pure in its goodness. And I use this, obviously, to point out to my kids here in the land of America, where we are the kings of material wealth and arguably one of the least wealthy in terms of our spirituality. And I'm not talking religion, I'm talking our spirituality, our actual connection to something greater than us, and the way that that's integrated into our culture. It's not part of our culture almost to any extent. We use religion in this country for a lot of reasons that aren't so positive in terms of how it's been abused in the political sphere and how we've just mixed up so many aspects of the goodness of religion and made it so unclear and lost the message of all the faiths. But not to digress and to go off on that tangent, simply to point out how we take so much for granted. And if you've ever really stopped and asked yourself, what that experience must be. We make all these assumptions that if you give somebody $1, they're going to go spend it on alcohol or whatever else that we're going to judge them for spending it on. And I'm not saying that that's not true. And I'm not saying that there aren't panhandlers out there that are taking advantage of people's kindness that give money when they're staying at, stopped at stoplights. But the majority, just like the majority of people on welfare, the majority of people in our country are good. And our present day media has done nothing but portray the very small percentage of people that are abusing these systems. And what it's created is everybody out for themselves. And an exorbitant amount of dishonesty. I'm also reminded, in terms of the topic of homelessness, of something I saw, this was years ago while I was at the gym. And it was on ESPN. And I'll probably mess up the details to some extent, but basically it was like a homeless person soccer tournament that was, I want to say it was global, but maybe it was just national. But it was basically all of these homeless people competing in soccer. And I just remember the interview with one guy. And apparently he was a subway driver in New York. He was driving the subway, just doing his job one day, when somebody decided to jump in front of his train to kill themselves. And it messed him up so badly. And again, not many of us are beyond paycheck to paycheck. The majority of America does not have a great deal of savings to rely on if things go bad for a short period of time. And this man could not, understandably so, regain himself quickly enough before he couldn't go back to work. He then lost his house, which quickly led to losing his family, and he found himself on the streets. And this soccer program that I don't know, I don't remember the details. I don't think ESPN per se was behind it, but they were certainly the network that was featuring this. This was giving him an opportunity to sort of regain some pride and to give him an opportunity to possibly put together a life for himself again. Now, I don't remember what happened. I don't remember anything beyond that, but what I chose to focus on and how it affected me is that you never, ever know anybody's story. And we are out there making so many judgments and placing so many labels and assuming so many things about so many people. And it's keeping all of us down. All of us down. And the final little story I'd like to share regarding homelessness is the time that my dad took us to a shelter to work. And this was in adulthood. This was, I want to say, early 2000s. Early 2000s, it was one Christmas. He was still working for one of his hotels, because my dad was a comptroller for a number of hotels in his past. And the hotel would give employees turkeys or hams or something for Christmas. And my dad was volunteering with an organization down at the homeless shelter. He had a relationship with some folks at this particular homeless shelter in downtown Detroit. And he decided to head up this effort and ask a bunch of his employees at the hotel if they were willing to donate their turkey. And he got other foods donated by, again, I don't remember all the details. And I actually remember that he committed us to this whole project without really talking to us, my brothers and I. And it was a big undertaking because we had to end up preparing food for hundreds and hundreds of people. And I remember, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this now, but we fought it. And I'm sure I fought it for other reasons than for wanting to go to the homeless shelter, but I'd probably be lying if I said that wasn't a factor. Because if you've not ever been to one and worked it or been there and felt the energy, the sadness, and this was an all-male shelter that we went to. And you had to be 18 or older, and there were a number of kids that were not much, that were right around the age of my brothers and I. And you just can't begin to understand that sort of journey. One, if you've never been on it, like by no means did that give me anywhere near a complete understanding of what that must feel like. But it was the closest I ever got. It was the closest I ever got. And it was about as close as I'd want to get. And the work what I'm trying to also share is that it benefits all of us to help the people in these sorts of situations and circumstances. It benefits all of us if we're able to provide these people with a different kind of help, a different kind of support, different kind of skills to go into their life and engaging in the world to regain some pride and an ability to contribute to society. And instead, the systems that we have in place, they're not getting the job done. And again, the criticism it comes from just an observation and now a new awareness of a different way, a different understanding of how we create our realities. And being able to empower everybody, from the homeless to the wealthiest, everybody. I am so practically almost certain that almost everybody can benefit from opening their mind to considering this new way, just considering the fact that we have so much more we can do with our minds and with one another. If we believe that there is a different way to live in the world than what we see as portrayed in the mainstream right now. And the two populations that I think have the strongest souls on our planet right now are and I do mean on the planet, because we're choosing. If you live in the United States, believe me, as much on the surface as it might appear to be such a glorious type of experience here, and on the practical it is. But on the level of spiritual, we've got the hardest trek in this country because we are so spiritually anorexic. We've got the hardest trek. We are, statistically speaking, the country with, I would argue, the greatest, or let's just say it this way, the least amount of people that are awakened, aware of the global awakening that's taking place, the evolution of our consciousness that is taking place, and being able to live it. We've got the smallest percentage of people doing that in our country because of our material wealth. And in our country, I would say those that have done time in jail and people that have experienced homelessness are some of the most powerful souls there are. Those people need, another hypothesis of mine that I plan on doing tons of testing with, as my company begins to earn money, and I begin to instill and invest in these kinds of programs and find others to combine efforts with, to target these two populations more so than any else. Because in my opinion, and my hypothesis is that for many of these people, if they have one person and one person only in their corner who truly and genuinely means it when they say, I'm not judging you for your past. I am seeing you for the beautiful human that you are right now, and I am believing in you and believing and knowing the goodness that you have inside of you, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you become aware of that and learn how to take a whole new control of your life, where it's not going to matter that society punishes you the way it does, and it does. God, you try to crawl yourself out of either of those circumstances? Whoa. So we'll see. We'll see.